You will never convince me that men are better leaders than women. And I say that as a former guide in the wilderness. And in fact, they won't admit it, but men actually know that we're better leaders out there too. Now, some of them will fight you on this because they just can't admit to themselves because they've been taught that they're the leaders of literally everything, especially white men. And that, that they're the default and all that stuff. And yet they use us they hide behind us. I'm going to show you some research in a minute of guides, male guides, admitting that they think that women are better decision makers because they're not as attached to their egos and they're more attached to their emotional intelligence and intuition and their bodies. And that's not because men are incapable of that. It's because of socialization and men, not working on that stuff, right? They are capable of it. We know that. They just won't do the work. But before I get into that, someone left a comment on a video I did a while ago, and I can't stop thinking of it. I can't find it, so I'm just going to recap it. But a lot of men in the outdoors want a woman along so that woman will be the voice of the thing that they know, and then they can hide behind her. So for instance, if it's a big group of people and there's one woman, they're all hoping that woman will speak up and be like, guys, I think this is dangerous. And then they'll fight her for, no. And then they'll be like, well, maybe she's right. And she's the one who has to take the hit. She's the one who's like the Debbie Downer. I hate that term. She's the one who looks like a coward. But they're all banking on her doing that. They're counting on her doing that. And the person who left that comment was like, yeah, I refuse to do that. And so a lot of times we got in dangerous situations because it's like a game of chicken. Who's going to say the thing that we all know, which is that this is dangerous and we shouldn't be doing this and we should turn around, right? And they use women to be that voice. And then they mock us and make fun of us for being that voice and fight us, but they're counting on us. You know what drives me craziest about this? This is what they do in general. And one of my mutuals, I'm going to tag her. She's the one who has talked about this a lot. And this was my experience, is this is why men rely on women, hold out on women, hope that women will break up fights. They're counting on us to do that. They'll start, and they hope that one of us will swoop in and be like, no, don't do that. And if we don't do it, then they get their butts kicked. When I was training to be a guide with teenagers who, who came from difficult backgrounds, I was literally taught that I am supposed to step in and break up those fights because they won't hit a woman. I'm like, wait, I didn't sign up for this. I don't want to step in between a fight. But if a man steps in, then they got more to prove. But if a woman steps in, they're less likely to hit her. So do you see how they use women's emotional labor? They use us as a shield from each other. And they use us as a shield from their egos in the outdoors. They use us as a shield of the brutality of Mother Nature. Something that they're already need to deconstruct because their desperate need to conquer and submit Mother Nature is very much rooted in colonizer, like white supremacist, like grape culture anyway, right? There's no harmony in that. A lot of men have no respect for nature. They're literally just trying to beat nature, conquer her. And I've made videos about this before. Some men will literally talk about a wave, some of these surfers, as if it's a woman. That they're just, and it's so gross. And so a lot of these men, because it's usually white men doing this in the outdoors, it is like all of these things come together out in nature and their relationship to nature. And they hate that nature actually is more powerful than them. And so they try to prove time and time and time again that they can win, and then they use us to come in and be like, I don't know. And so it's not that men can't be good leaders, but most of them aren't. They can't even lead in their own households. Why would they be good leaders in the wilderness? They already are not conditioned to think about anyone but themselves. So when they're in a leadership position, do you think that they're like, I wonder how everyone in this group is doing emotionally? I wonder if they feel safe. Not just physically safe, emotionally safe. You know what I mean? They don't check in with you. And not all. I know plenty of men who are like this. They're amazing guides. But most of the people that I trust in the wilderness, climbing on expeditions, it's almost always women. I do not trust the most men if they are not connected deeply to their intuition instead of their freaking ego. Right? And if they're not in this like, the men who are in this dominating, like, I gotta win because they're at war with themselves, I do not trust those men. And most men in the outdoors are like that because most of them are running from trauma or some crap, right? Or they're addicted to adrenaline and are at war with themselves and certainly haven't deconstructed any of these systems that give them this desire to go out and dominate and control something else like nature. But let's just look at some studies. So this is in Psychology Today. Are all female mountaineers better decision makers? Oh my God, look at my tongue. His cheek is like... No, I will say this. As somebody who was really bought into like toxic masculinity because I was so... I wanted to fit in with men so bad, and I worked with so many toxic men that I bought into. I wrote about this for Outside Magazine. This right here, if you want to read... The guy who became a toxically masculine feminist. Women who operate like I was are not necessarily going to be better leaders. But the thing is that I was never leading with a group of men. I usually had my own boat and I was in charge. And so I wasn't under the pressure to perform masculinity for these men. So I was actually a really great guide. In 6 years, I only flipped twice, and that was in the same day. And it was the dumbest flip ever, which then got me in my head. And so I flipped a second time. But 6 years of guiding and only flipping twice is pretty unbelievable. And that's because I was scared out of my mind, because my first day on the Rio Grande as a guide, I watched someone drown in front of me from a private boater, and we had to try to save them. And it traumatized me. And I was like, oh my God, I don't ever want anyone to die on my watch. But I'm bringing this up is because there's a lot of very toxically masculine women in the wilderness. So, and again, this is across gender, non-binary, like it doesn't matter. It's the mindset, and it's the performing of this toxic masculinity thing that is so encouraged in the outdoor world. But in general, women who are in touch with their intuition and with their bodies, or guides, men, whatever, it doesn't matter. If that guide is in touch with themselves and not attached to their ego, they're going to make great guides. They've done research though. Men tend to make more reckless decisions under stress, apparently driven by the possibility of greater rewards. Those rewards usually being like, look at me, I'm the hero. They've admitted there hasn't been enough research on this, mostly because women are underrepresented in the outdoor world. Why? Because men push us out. It's not due to lack of courage. It's literally such a toxic world that a lot of women tap out. The same reason women tap out of comedy, the film world, and all the other industries I've been a part of. Men are insufferable to be around sometimes, and they bully us. Anyway, it concluded that women are better suited to be better in the death zone when they're in mountaineering. They interviewed this climber here, mountaineer Adrian Ballinger. This dude right here, this is his wife. And he admits that she is better at making decisions in the outdoors because she's so confident and she's focused and she's not listening to the ego as much. So he talks about how a lot of his male clients, he guides, I think he's an Everest guide too. A lot of the male clients will push themselves when they really shouldn't, when they need to rest. And then they're in like a deficit. And it's because of them performing masculinity and wanting to keep up with the guys and wanting to prove that they're as tough as everyone else. And they end up being their own worst enemy. And he said that over 2 decades of full-time climbing and guiding, he's found that women have a tendency to listen to their bodies and be a little more respectful of what their bodies are telling them. So this is where he talks about his wife, that she knows when she needs to slow down or take a day off, because when you don't, you could literally die. And then he also goes in to say that a lot of men, or people, but especially men, if they don't get killed doing something reckless, then their ego will tell them that, oh, that thing was right, when really it was pure luck. So then that reinforces their ego to be driving the decisions instead of intuition. And most of the deaths on Everest and in general are people not being able to handle the failure of turning around and basically taking an L. He also talks about how Women are more supportive out there and you can be yourself. So talking about this failure thing, it also goes down to like competitiveness. A lot of men in the outdoors and just in general, we see this when they race cars. We see this when they literally do anything. They push themselves because they're competing with themselves and they're competing with other men and they're just performing masculinity because everything's about how tough they are and how much they can endure, right? Because rest and taking care of yourself, that's for, you know what I mean? And I hate this word when it's used that way, but that's what we know, that's what they say. That's literally what these men said all the time when I worked them. Oh my God, my dog did that to me this morning. That's what that is, by the way. He's so brutal. Ugh, those claws. But when I look at a lot of these deaths in the climbing world and stuff that happen, all these men are trying to outbeat their own time, outbeat each other. Who can, there was a death a few years ago of like two guys climbing Yosemite, El Cap, I think. I don't remember which route it was in Yosemite. But they were trying to go as fast as they can to beat the record. And when the faster you go to beat the record, the less safety is involved, right? This competitiveness is capitalism, man. It's toxic masculinity. It is like white supremacy culture. It's like this. That's why the world is burning right now. This need to like prove ourselves and win. At what cost? And so many men cannot turn around. This is why I loved climbing with men if they're emotionally intelligent, but I would never climb with men who weren't because they would never admit, I can't do this one. I can't do this. And so they put both of us in danger. And so I know people give me crap like I'm talking crap about men. I'm not. I care about y'all. If any of you bother to watch my stuff, which you don't because you think I hate you, I don't want y'all dying from your ego and your socialization. That's why I care so much. I'm tired of seeing men I love die because of the dumbest stuff. But it's so deep and it takes a lot of work. And this need to prove stuff to other men or women, but especially other men, gets y'all killed all the time. Or to prove something to yourself because you hate yourself so much, it gets you killed all the time. So I care more than you do a lot of times. And I hate that. Women are the ones who are going to be burying y'all, usually. It's sad that we care more about y'all than you care about yourselves. If all members can handle their roles with the right emotional intelligence, we can achieve the perfect balance. Likes having women there because they reinforce this listening to your intuition and also like knowing your role, right? Like sometimes, like when I worked with a lot of outdoor guides, the best thing is we would take turns being who's the leader of the day, and we respected that person's decision making. And then there's somebody who took care of logistics, and there's somebody who said, we all know that as a team, we have certain roles that day, and we respect those roles, right? But there's somebody who's like, no, I'm the leader. I'm the leader. They make terrible guides unless they are literally the leader that day. And then they still have to be open to criticism, constructive criticism, and the checking of their ego, which a lot of men are not. They get defensive, right? In the article, they also interview Carla Perez, who's the first South American woman to summit Everest without supplemental oxygen. And I love the stuff that she says. Just if you go check out her Instagram page, you'll be blown away. Look at this. Look at this woman. Badass. So this is what she says when they asked if there's a difference training with an all-female team. Yes, I feel different dynamics on an all-female team. I feel less pressure to have to show something to be valued, which is a very common situation of a team of men. Normally, they all compete for who is the best or the strongest. On a female team, it's easier to be yourself, sensitive, sweet, etc., but at the same time having the determination and the strength to accomplish your goals. And I'm so sorry, I misspoke before. I said that Adrian guy said all this. This was her. She's the one who said that people can handle their roles. She said, I could say that in general, women are more mindful and sensitive, but I feel that those attributes come more from the degree of awakening of every human. And I will say this, when I was climbing, women in general tend to be way more supportive, way less shaming if I couldn't do this thing. And always championed me listening to my intuition. If I backed off of something, enough push, like, are you sure? Do you want to give it more try? And then they let it go. They respected my no, which again goes back to grape culture. You know, a lot of times, and I'm sure that, let me know if you've had this experience, whether it's climbing or just anything, where a man pushes you to do something. And then you're at the top of a climb or you're stuck in a place and you say, you know what, I can't do this, let me down. Some men will literally hold that woman up there and be like, no, you're going to do it. I know you can do it. Bro, respect her consent. Respect what's going on in her mind and her heart and her body. And a lot of these men, they think they know better than you about your own body. And I also found that a lot of times men would blame something stupid for their failures. I mean, I noticed this right away. Men would if they couldn't do a climb, they would blame their shoes. It was always the shoes or something, right? That I was like, this is fascinating because when I can't do a climb, all I do is blame myself. And they would just be like, God, my shoes are, or something. It was always something. Because they don't want to look like just admit defeat. And it's so telling because that's what they do in relationships. Oh, she left me. She just left me. She gave up on our marriage. As if they did not have an active role in sabotaging that marriage from their very beginning by tapping out and refusing to do anything to save it. So yeah, you will never convince me ever that on average, men are better leaders in any area. In any area other than maybe war, when it comes to obliterating people and not giving a fork, they're really good at that. Especially, you know what I mean? But in that's a whole nother topic. But they're terrible leaders. They don't even listen to themselves. They don't even listen to their own intuition. You think they're going to listen to you and yours? No, they're going to gaslight you and push you into doing things. And women and children get killed all the time in the outdoors by their husbands, their stepdads, their dads, their brothers, their male friends. Who we just trust to keep us safe. These men are the biggest threat to our lives in our home and in the world, and you expect them to keep you safe in the wilderness? Come on. No. Stop listening to these men. They're overconfident. They're full of hubris. They're self-destructive. They have a death wish. And you're going to trust your life and your children's life in their hands? Stop. Stop. I literally saw a woman get killed in the river my first day as a paddle guide in New Mexico because a man who she trusted put her in a lake vest and then flipped the boat, and I watched a woman watch her mother die right in front of me. I do not ever want to see that again. And I learned a very hard lesson that day that never underestimate the power of water, especially, and Mother Nature in general. I am not here to beat her. I'm here to work in harmony with her and work in harmony with myself. And that takes a lot of work. And men don't want to do that work. And then they want us to trust our lives with them. No, thank you. Nope.